Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and today we're checking out one of my favorite ears for SG. So this looks like a 61 reissue SG, but it's not. It's actually a 2013 Gibson SG Standard. And it's got some cool stuff going on. Let's check it out. So I've been getting really lucky at pawn shops lately. This guitar had a crazy price on it. I offered them lower, they took it, and they even threw in this hard shell case. So yeah, a lot of the fabric or the Tolex or whatever is ripped off the case, but it still works fine. So it keeps the guitar safe. And here we are. So yeah, this is a 2013 Gibson SG Standard. And what's really cool about these models is that they have very similar specs to the 61 reissues. So in 2012, Gibson SG 61 reissues cost this much money. And for whatever reason, I don't know if they weren't selling very well or what was going on, but in 2013, they released the Gibson SG Standard with very similar specs to the previous year's 61 reissue for about $1,000 less. So all the people who bought the 61 reissues the year before were a little pissed off. But everybody else was happy to get these 61 spec'd, SGs for a lot less money. I think the only really big difference between the two models would be the headstock. So the 61 reissue has that really big kind of boat paddle headstock, and they dialed this one down for 2013. There's even rumors that they were using a lot of the 2012 61 reissue bodies and stuff like that on these models because they didn't sell well. But again, who knows? But all I know is that I really love this year of Gibson SG because of the 61 reissue specs. And what I mean by that is on the 61 reissues they get the 57 classic pickups, which are my favorite pickup set. And I really like not the batwing guard, but just the smaller guard here. I think that looks really classy. And you can adjust your bridge and take your pickups off without having to take off the pick guard, so that's an added bonus. And this guitar in particular, I think is the lightest SG I've ever tried. Like, you pick it up and it's just nothing. I'm excited to see how much it weighs. So this is mahogany body. You've got 2 volume, 2 tones. It's got the thumb bleeders and the reflector top hat knobs. So again, very similar to the 61 reissues. We've got the 57 classic pickups, the smaller guard. Nice contour on this. Now this guitar is pretty chewed up, but from what I could tell, there's nothing really that bad on it. And I plan on touching it up a little bit too. We've got our fret nibs, bound neck with our trapezoid inlays, acrylic. This piece of rosewood is pretty dried out, so I'm going to need to condition the fretboard. Give it some lemon oil. The frets look good. There's no divots or dents or anything weird going on. They probably could use a polish. And then, yeah, here's a look at our Gibson headstock. It's got the mother of pearl with the pineapple or the crown or whatever you want to call it. And I think that the reason this guitar was so inexpensive or heavily discounted at the store was the fact that it is a little chewed up. So you've got some of this wear around the edges and stuff down to the wood. But again, I'm going to go ahead and, when I clean this thing up, I'm going to give it a buff, a cleaning, and clean up some of the dings, and drop fill with a little Indian ink and some lacquer. There is this very slight crack on the neck too. So it only goes from about here to here. So this could very well be a stress crack. So if the guitar fell but didn't necessarily break, it could have developed a little crack here. Now what I did was try to flex it open. So how you do that is you can actually grab this part and really just try to break it and see if that crack opens up at all. So I put a lot of pressure on this and it's not moving at all. So what that tells me is this might have been a repaired crack, like someone might have opened it up and glued it and repaired it. It was never a full-on headstock break. Someone might have repaired that crack, but usually there's like residue when that happens, and there doesn't seem to be any glue or anything else like that. So what I suspect this is just a little gloss crack in the finish. Sometimes if it goes through a trauma, like a drop or something like that, a small crack can develop. Over time, that can actually turn into a real crack into the wood. But yeah, I gave this a really strong stress test, and it doesn't seem to be opening at all. So I would say this is really solid. And if it has been repaired, it was extremely well done, because it doesn't look like it. It just looks like a little gloss crack. So that's not a big deal for me. Then we've got our Gibson Deluxe tuners. So I looked at the year in this model, and one of the options was the mini tune system. So the mini tune system, there are actually no holes drilled on the headstock for the machine heads. So when you take it off, you have to actually drill your own new holes for any new machine heads you put on. So I think that was the case on this guitar, because it either came with Tone Pros or it came with the mini tune system. And these are Gibson Deluxe. So what I'm assuming is that it had the Robo tuners and someone didn't like them and removed them and put on these Gibson Deluxe. So another kind of telltale sign that this is not factory machine heads is that they're a little not quite lined up quite right. What Gibson typically does on these style of tuners is they at least get the horns to match up with each other. So this one's typically a little bit more angled out, and this one a little bit more angled out, just so it looks nice and symmetrical. And this one's a little bit off, so I think someone might have done it themselves. I've got a bigger chip here in the headstock as well. And there's our serial number. So in this year, they weren't following the 1-5 method. This is the years, the first two digits on this model. But I've owned one of these guitars before, and I always regretted selling it. So especially considering how good of a price I paid for this, I definitely had to pick it up. And the fact that it's crazy light too, and it came with actually a pretty nice setup already on it, makes me pretty excited for this one. So alright, let's go ahead and get it on the bench, and we'll take some specs. Yeah, this is the lightest SG I've ever had. This is just over 6 pounds, which is crazy. Like I said, it feels like nothing. And it's 2.738 kilograms. So one thing you got to worry about though, if you have a super light SG, typically anything like 6.5 pounds or even lighter, you get a little bit of neck dive. So let's try that quickly. Does it neck dive? It kind of does a little bit. You can kind of feel it wanting to go down, but it's actually really pretty balanced. Like, for a guitar this light, no neck dive is pretty crazy. So yeah, again, there is a tiny bit, but it pretty much stays where you want it to without really moving that much. So wow, that's pretty crazy. Alright, let's see what our 57 Classics are reading. So in the bridge position, it's reading a 7.7, and in the neck position, a 7.75. and in the middle a 3.86. Alright, let's check the pickups and the electronics to make sure everything is what it should be. Pawn shops aren't usually the greatest at authenticating guitars sometimes, so you can get sometimes things from pawn shop that have mismatched parts and things like that. So let's just double check. It looks like our tailpiece is original, factory. It's got that advanced plating incorporated branding on the bottom, and it's full weight. And then here's a look at our Nashville style bridge, and it's branded API on the bottom, so advanced plating incorporated again. And it looks good, it's not collapsed at all. It's in nice shape. And then here's our Nashville style bridge posts. So the ABR1 style, which is you see on like the custom shop and some other models, it's actually a smaller post that drills right into the wood. These ones have the receivers built into the wood. So just a little bit different than an ABR1. And here's a look at our bridge pickup. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's a 57 Classic, dated to 2012, so that makes sense considering this is a 2013. And have a look at our neck pickup. Neck pickup is also a 57 Classic, dated to 2012. These are the braided wire pickups. And here's a look at our routes. So yeah, there's our routes. So SG13, so yeah, Gibson SG 2013. The routes are nice and clean. And these SGs are just mahogany bodies, usually a couple pieces. I'm not really sure how many pieces this is. You can kind of see, and if you look at the grain really close, you can kind of see the, or if you look at the finish really close, you can still kind of see the grain. So sometimes under the right light, you can kind of see lines, and that's how you can kind of tell how many piece body it is. So we got EB there, which is my initials, and I'm sure it stands for ebony. And there's a look at our long neck tenon, the smile there. And here's a look at our pick guard, standard 3-ply. Looks good. And SG61 reissues have this little piece of plastic that screws on right over top of the neck pickup. And that's because of the long neck tenon on the SGs. You can actually see the end of the truss rod cap there. So if you see right there that little maple stripe there in the neck, that's where the truss rod is capped off at the other side. So this little piece of plastic covers that. I'm kind of hesitant to fix the dings on this guitar because I really like relic looking black guitars for some reason. Specifically black, because I think there's such a contrast between the relic parts and the black. And this one doesn't have anything too bad. I mean, it's just some slight wear marks on the side. And, you know, as it gets older, it's going to look cooler and cooler. What I would typically do is, I've got India ink, so I would, you know, fill in all the spots that show the mahogany, so it's super dark, and then I would use some nitro drop fill and just clean up all these little spots. But on this one, I think I'm just going to leave it. I think I like the way it looks, even this, you know, larger chunk out of the headstock. I might change my mind later, but I can always do that after the fact. So I'm going to leave it as it is for now. And here's a look at our control cavity. So there's a look at all of our hand-wired electronics. Some models in this era have the PCB board, but some don't. So this guitar does not. It's got all the original components. It's dated right here to 2012. And all Gibson pots, they're using these little ceramic disc capacitors. And everything looks unaltered and factory stock. Our route looks nice and clean as well. Alright, I went ahead and cleaned up this guitar and oiled the fingerboard and buffed the frets a little bit, so now it's looking really good. Let's have a look at the condition. This whole guitar kind of looks like a lightly aged guitar, so naturally aged, naturally relicked. I kind of like the look of it. It looks, it has a vibe. So yeah, headstock's in good shape. A couple little surface scratches and scuffs, but no big dings or marks anywhere. And our truss rod is right there, showing one like thread, so lots of room for adjustability. And there's a look at our nut here. It's well cut. And our fingerboard darkened up quite a bit. It was so light before, I thought it looked like baked maple almost, but this is definitely rosewood. It darkened up quite a lot. It's still kind of a lighter piece. And there's a look at our acrylic inlays. As for the body, you've got dings and doinks everywhere, but nothing too bad. A little bit through the finish there. A little bit more down here. And one little ding here. Some more in the back. And if you look in the light, you can kind of see some checking happening too. That's what those lines are in the light. So this guitar is already starting to check, which is like something old Gibsons do. That can be due to like a humidity issue or something like that, but I think this guitar is going to age wonderfully. You're going to get nice checking. It's already kind of pre-reliced. I think it looks good. Might not be your thing, but I don't mind a bit of a worn looking Gibson. And in the back, we can see, yeah, some more wearing around the edges through the finish. Another little ding there. On the back, it's got more checking. You can kind of see in a few spots. And some buckle worming. And some marks. Another little mark there in the horn. But our neck is pretty clean. I didn't notice anything major. You've got one little ding right there that you can feel, but it's pretty minor. And then here's a look at that stress crack on the neck. So yeah, it just goes from like there to there, and it appears just to be in the finish. I went ahead and stress tested that a lot. I really reefed on the neck and it didn't open at all, so I'm quite confident that's just a little gloss check or crack there. And there's a look at our Clouson tuner. So yeah, I actually do think these are factory original. I got the specs off the Wayback Machine, but sometimes those are wrong. I had a look at some other 2013 models on Reverb, and it appears that all the other models have these machine heads put on the same way. So I think over the years Gibson kind of puts on their machine heads certain different ways. This way kind of looks wrong to me because this is staggered over that way, but compared to the other examples, they're all the same too. So yeah, I'm confident these are factory as well now. And yeah, just used, not abused. No fret issues at all though. Frets are super nice and shiny, and hardly any marks on the neck, so just cosmetic. But alright, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing set up. So managed to get a nice setup on this guitar. So using my notch straight edge, you can see that there's a very little gap between the straight edge and the fretboard. So that tells us that the neck is straight, the truss rod is tight, and up on our 3rd fret area, you can see that when I use the 3rd fret that the string is just resting very gently against that 1st fret. So that tells us that we have a good action here. The truss is tight and the nut is cut well. And then at our 12th fret, we can see we have nice low action. So at the 12th fret, our low E is between 1 and 1.25 millimeters. And at the high E, it's between 0.75 and 1 millimeters. So very nice low action. Alright, I'm just going to run up and down the neck quick to make sure there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you want to hear it in real time, just slow down the player to 25%. So yeah, very nice low action and no fretting out or buzzing anywhere. Plays great. And the neck is a 60s profile, and of course there's no fret sprout at all because Gibson uses the nibs. And these nibs, the binding is well lined up on this guitar. There's no little marks or gaps between the nibs either. Alright, let's quickly check our neck dimensions here. So at the 1st fret, we're at a 1.70 or a 43.37 millimeters, and at the 12th fret that beefs up to a 2.08 or a 52.97 millimeters. Neck depth at the first fret is a 0.829 or a 21.06 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, that's a 0.92 inches or a 23.39 millimeters. And here's a look at our neck profile. So yeah, standard C. It does flatten out quite a bit by the 12th fret, but yeah, it looks good. All right, I'm plugged into my 1965 Fender Bassman as per usual. Here are my settings, and I'm using a Jim Jones GTO overdrive, which is a nice transparent germanium overdrive. I'm going to go through all the clean tones and then with a little bit of dirt. So yeah, sounds great clean. I really love the 57 Classics. They're my favorite pickups from Gibson. You can get ones that sound better than others depending on the year and whatever else, but this seems to be like a really nice set. So let's go ahead and try it out with a little bit of distortion. right, final thoughts on the 2013 Gibson SG Standard. Just a really great example of this model. It's a great guitar. Yeah, again, these 2013 models have the 61 reissue specs, but with the smaller headstock. And yeah, they're fantastic guitars if you can find one. This one's like crazy light, 6 pounds. This is the lightest SG I've ever owned. And it actually balances quite well too. It's maybe like a tad neck divey, but it stays right where it should be for the most part. This set of 57 Classics sound great. Just the right amount of grit, sound good clean, and just great tone. The guitar itself is all factory original. I thought these machine heads might have been replaced, but I found online that many other examples have these same Cluson machine heads, and they're put on the same way. It stays in tune great, it plays great, super low action, and it feels nice and resonant when you play it, like it's got a lot of vibration. And I wasn't planning on it, but I think I might have to keep this one. It's super light, which I like without being neck divey, and it's just got a really nice tone and it plays great. I haven't quite decided yet. Just keep an eye on the reverb. I might throw it up for sale. I've just got too many guitars at the moment, and I keep finding really nice ones, which is a good problem to have, but I can't keep them all. But thanks for tuning in to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.